Okay, so we're going to start, we have the Pachad Yitzchok by Rav Yitzchok Hutner on Shabbos. Okay, so we're going to take a look. We're going to try Maimar Aleph, the first Ma'amar in the Shabbos edition. It's got 2 chapters, I believe. It's I guess it's medium to long length, but let's see let's see how it goes. Okay. So chapter 1, Aleph. We see in the tefillah in Shabbos davening, we say To'amei Achayim Zachu, those who tasted her merited to life. V'gam ha'ohavim divareh gidula bacharu. So this is in the Musaf of Shabbos day, and it says those who tasted her merited life, and those who loved ohavim divareh, those who loved her mitzvot, her commandments, gidula bacharu, they chose greatness. So if you taste Shabbos, you merit life. And if you love the commandments of Shabbos, you have chosen greatness. So now, you have to understand, you'll see that the Pachad Yitzchok's approach always relies on very, very careful, specific, what we call diukim, a precise attention to otherwise what we would think of without closer examination, we would just take for granted as poetry. But every term, an adjective, is a particular concept that tells us a lot. So if the davening is characterizing, those who taste it merit life, then there's something called tasting Shabbos. What is that, right? And why does that engender meriting life? And what does it mean to love its commandments? And why if you have a relationship with its commandments of love, you have chosen greatness? What does that mean? Okay? So we're going to examine some of the aspects of Shabbos from the springboard of this statement that we have in the davening. Once again, those who tasted her merited life, and those who love her commandments have chosen greatness. So the Pachad Yitzchok points out that nityachta ahava lidvareh shel Shabbos, the idea of love has been unified here with the commandments of Shabbos, v'nityachta hata'ima legufa shel Shabbos, and the idea of taste has been connected here to the essence of Shabbos, because it says to'ameha, those who tasted her, whereas, right, by choosing greatness, it says those who love her commands. So we're talking about Shabbos in its totalness, a direct essence of Shabbos, and we're also talking about the details of how we observe, how we connect to the Shabbos, right? 2 different aspects. V'shinui yichud zeh, and the difference, the contrast of these 2 linked sets of ideas, gorer acharav shinui yichus. They cause one to, meaning because they're contrasted this way, obviously, right, there's a difference in their relationships. That the tasting of the essence of Shabbos is referred to as life, while at the same time, a love of her mitzvot, of Shel Shabbos, nityachsa legdula, relates specifically to greatness. Okay. So far, so good. Okay, Beis. Da'atam shel harbe poskim. Right, according to a lot of halachic decisors, ki hashabbos b'shivas yimei mishta shel chasan v'kala mechayev esi b'sheva brachot. There's a rule in the week of festive Jewish wedding celebration, right? You have the Sheva Brachot. You have a week of getting together and having meals where they say the Sheva Brachot afterwards. And the law is that in order to have a Sheva Brachot meal, you need to have a new presence, the presence of a new face that wasn't there yet in celebrating. Meaning, it's the additional guest that allows us to celebrate again. Meaning, now we'll celebrate the wedding with somebody else who hasn't gotten a chance to celebrate with us yet. So the idea that you need panim chadashot, a new face, to celebrate the joy of a chasan v'kala. So the poskim say that you can use on Shabbos. You don't need to resort to an actual physical guest who wasn't there before, because Shabbos itself brings with it a new face. Okay, Daitam shel harbe poskim, the consensus of many poskim is that the Shabbos of the week of Sheva Brachot for a Chatan Kala, af al pi she'ein sham panim chadashot mamash, even if in actuality there wasn't literally a new face present, ki hashabat atzma nidonet hi kepanim chadashot. Shabbos itself is seen as a new face. Oh, Shabbos came. Umekor ha'inyan, how did they know? Where did they get that from? So usually they bring, the source is, hu b'divrei chachamim, because Chazal say, shamru pasuk. It says in the verse, in the chapter in Tehillim, that is the song of Shabbos, right? In Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbos, it says, panim chadashot ba'u lakan. A new face has arrived here. Chazal say, Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbos, a Mizmor Shir, a type of a song, right, to the day of Shabbos. What's the comment of Chazal on those words? A new face has arrived here. Chazal say that. It's a very esoteric statement. But the poskim jump on that and say, the Chazal say straight out, that Shabbos has an appearance of a new face, and you can use that lehalacha to allow for a celebration of Sheva Brachot on Shabbos. V'hine gam tochen hadvarim v'gam mikor hadvarim stumim heim lanu. So the Pachad Yitzchok points out that what that means, that statement, and how they would even know that Chazal would know that, seem very closed off to us here. I mean, it's very esoteric. How did they know that Panim Chadashot? How did they learn that from Mizmor Shir? And what does that even mean? Ki mahu ha'or hatovea et chidush kedushata shel Shabbos b'matbea shel Panim Chadashot? What is the light that becomes manifest Kimahu ha'or hatovea et chidush kedushata shel Shabbos. What is the light that demands a new sanctity of Shabbos b'matbea shel panim chadashot, in the form of a new face? Meaning, how is it that the light of Shabbos manifests as this idea of a new face? V'lo od, and not only that, but ele sheruim anu kishorsh bechinat panim chadashot, the roots of this idea of a new face, shel Shabbos, that Shabbos has, einene na'utz lo beberchot HaShabbos v'lo b'kedushas HaShabbos ha'meforeshet b'chumash. It doesn't appear, this reference, this idea, this concept of a panim chadashot, it's not pinned on none of the blessings that our tradition instructs us to say on Shabbos, none of the blessings of Shabbos, none of the prayers, right, and none of the kiddush that we make, and none of the praises, none of the sanctity that's mentioned in the Chumash. V'lo ba'oneg Shabbos ha'meforeshet b'divrei neviim, and not in the words of the prophets, where they tell us, they instruct us on different aspects of Shabbos, like oneg, right, the root, the source to delight on Shabbos. Meaning, we don't have any reference here overtly to this idea of Panim Chadashot. It's like the Chazal, they invented it right here, and they associate it with this verse in Tehillim of Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbos. El Dafka b'Mizmor Shir Shel Shabbos, specifically through the song of Shabbos, they learn that there's a new face to Shabbos. Shelo nitparesh el b'Sefer Tehillim, and that's just this isolated mention in Sefer Tehillim. Stimutam shel advarim me'eleh hi nikeret. It's so clear how esoteric this is. That's right. It's plainly seen here that this is very esoteric idea.
Where did David the Melech get it from?
Exactly. But you know, David HaMelech didn't write that chapter.
He didn't?
No, Adam
Rishon.
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 Yeah. Okay. So, Gimel. Hamaftechot le'otzrot halalu. The keys to these hidden treasures, to these treasuries. Shel kedushat Shabbos, of the sanctity of Shabbos. Genuzim heim b'divrei hagra. The keys to this are hidden in the words of the Gra. Ki hakadosh baruch hu mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh bereshit. God renews every day, constantly, Ma'aseh Bereshit. He's renewing existence, right? And bringing it into being every moment, every day, right? V'chidush Ma'aseh Bereshit. And the novelty and the remaking of Ma'aseh Bereshit. Liyom HaShabbos, right? So every day, God remakes that day. But the remaking of the day of Shabbos, hu chan miyom etmol, he does on Friday. The Gross says that on Friday it does double. Friday, God doesn't just do the manifestation of Friday on Friday, but he does on Shabbos. Shabbos gets it late. Shabbos is like the lechem hapana. It's fresh, but it was made already, right? It's like the man. So what does that mean? Right? You get the concept? That on every Sunday, every Yom Rishon, God remakes Yom Rishon on that day. On Yom Shishi, on Friday, God remakes that day on that day. On Shabbos, he abstains from this whole doing. So he has to make the new creation of Shabbos on Friday. That's what the Gross says. What does that mean? Ubiyom HaShabbos, Shavas af mimeno. And on Shabbos itself, even this remaking of creation that God does constantly, he abstained from. V'zeo she'amar mikol. And the Gross says this is all. It says kivo shavas mikol melachto asher asa. Because on that day, he rested from all mikol asher asa that he did. What does mikol over there mean? So the Gross says this is referring to the constant remaking that he will do, continuing in after existence has already started. And however, that aspect of Shabbos he's going to make on a double portion on Friday. Okay, so far this is really out there. Okay, so v'haven, and you should understand, ad kad l'shono, until here are his holy words. Okay, so ken amarnu pekan genuzim hema maftechot, and so we said, in this statement are hidden the keys. Aval hotzota le'or shel geniza zo hi al yedei hadiburim de'alam. But in order to extract them and to look at them, we're going to need the following. Okay, we're going to try to do one more piece. This is kind of a long, Dalet is a bit longer. We'll see how far we go. Okay, so there's an idea when it comes to Hilchot Shabbat about carrying. There's something called Hotzah. You can't carry from one domain to another. You can't take out of your private domain into a public domain. Okay? So now there is a shear, a measure for what is considered an object that you can't take out. Okay? So, hamotzi ochlin bekli, pachot mikishiur, somebody who takes out food in a vessel from one domain to another on Shabbos. But the food in the vessel is less than the rudimentary amount to be considered liable. Patur afal hakli, he is exempt even for carrying out the vessel, even though the vessel in and of itself was the proper size. Meaning, if he would have taken the vessel itself out because he wants the vessel, what's the word when you do something you're not supposed to do? Huh?
Transgress.
Right. Okay. So if he takes out the vessel itself because he wants the vessel, and the vessel is the proper size, so he's transgressed hotza'ah. But if he takes out the vessel to facilitate taking out the food, and the food was not the rudimentary amount, he did not violate. He did not transgress. Why? Because the only reason why he's taking out the vessel is to facilitate the food. The food is the main thing. That's what he intended. And the only the reason that the presence of the vessel is there is to facilitate that. He doesn't care about the vessel at all. And therefore, since he never intended to take a vessel out, that's what we call malechet machshevet. In order to be liable for doing a malacha, a prohibited activity on Shabbos, it has to be something that you intended to do. So, of course, you intended to take the vessel out to facilitate the food, but you never had any will or desire to take the vessel out in and of itself. And therefore, since there is something which is called an ikar, the essence of the thing is the food, and the tafel, that which is just secondary to it, in order to facilitate it, is the vessel. The vessel has of no halachic importance when you take it out, and therefore, if the food wasn't enough for you to transgress, even though the kli may have been physically the big enough size that determines hotzah, it is tafel, it is secondary to the food, and you're not liable. Okay? You just learned the halacha about Shabbos. Very conceptual, right? The vessel's not a vessel. The vessel is not just an object that has objective properties in regards to this. It depends on how you intend to use it and what you're using it for. And since you don't care about the vessel at all, it's this piece of food, and the food, meaning you're just carrying out food, and the food's not enough. So we just erase the object of the vessel has no standing in and of itself as an object in this case. Hamotzi ochlin, somebody who removes food, bikli, in a vessel, pachod mikishir, that the food is less than the enough of the amount to obligate you. Patur, he is exempt, af al hakli, even for the vessel, mipnei shehakli tfela leochlin, because a vessel is only secondary in reality to the food. Kilomar, that is to say, af al pi, even though digu uf pulat hotzah, that the body, the action of hotzah here, of removing from one domain to another, shel hakli, of the vessel, nigderti, b'chol gidrei malechet hotzah dechil Shabbos, meaning it is totally asur for somebody to take a vessel from one place to another. That is hotzah, the vessel by itself. Mikol makom, nevertheless, kevan de b'shat hotzah takli. Nevertheless, at this time, in this case, when he took the vessel out, hayta pu'ulat hotzah zu, this act of hotzah, of removal, tfeilah, was only secondary lepu'ula acher, to another act, which was the removal of the food. It turns the exiting of the kli, of the vessel, from one domain to another, it takes it out of the rubric of what we call malechet machshevet, an intentioned act. Meaning you're only chayav for acts on Shabbos, for violation of Shabbos, when they were the acts, that was your intention, that was your will.
Because your intention was to take the food, not the plate.
You don't care about the vessel, and if it wasn't that vessel, it would have been something else, and if you didn't need a vessel, you'd prefer not to take it out. It's not there.
But ultimately, is there a sin involved when you do that, even though it was not intentional? Is there a consequential...
The Torah didn't ask you for that. The Torah didn't say that. Meaning you're saying, the Torah says don't do something, so there's a way to do it, meaning there is a bare minimum that you're obligated, so you'll do less than that. Well, I mean, that's not l'shamro. You're not, I don't know, it's an interesting hashkafic question on halacha. One could say, if there was pressing need to do it, you're not violating the Torah. You're not. Okay? And that's why I guess the halacha is telling you here that it's okay.
It's okay.
Umemela, because it's just we're determining reality. It's just not there, right? Umemela ein hi soteret et shvisata shel Shabbos. Therefore, this act of taking, right, when you have this kind of scenario, it doesn't conflict with resting on Shabbos. Unechonim anu bezeh lekrat ha'ara ha'mechudeshet shel amar ma'aseh, and therefore we are ready to read this, to understand this idea, this new novel idea. Ein inyan zeh shel tefel ve'ikr din prati ben hamon halachotah shel Shabbos, ela she'inyan zeh shel tefel ve'ikr mehavehu et ha'malach ha'pnimi shel shvus Shabbos bereishis. Okay, he's going to say that this example, this idea, this paradigm of this moving from one domain to another, when there's tafel and ikar involved. The whole idea of tafel and ikar is essential to the understanding of Shabbos Bereishis. He's saying it's not just this, in this case where you see it, but this is the theme that, one of the major fundamental ideas that all of Shabbos Bereishis, the first Shabbos of creation, is resting on. Okay, lasim havarat dvarim elo, in order to shed some light on these matters. It is necessary for us to begin to talk about the nature of the 6 days of creation leading up to the first Shabbos. Okay, during the course of the 6 days of creation, what was at work were the 10 utterances of creation. God created the world through 10 utterances, right? 10 vayomers, including the 10th being Bereshit, which is, right, the first pasuk, and that is what was not just bringing reality into being, but those statements, as they kind of like existed and constantly gave life to existence. So we say, right, Ki b'dvar Hashem shamayim nasu, with the words of God, the heavens were made. And it says, La'olam devarcha nitzav b'shamayim, forever your words are firmly planted in heaven. Meaning that which God said, it wasn't just like a one-time thing, but that's an utterance that exists objectively, that gives life to whatever that's a source of life to. Okay? So during the 6 days of creation, what was giving life to existence, what was making existence happen, were those utterances. B'kocham shel ma'amarot halalu, with the strength of these utterances, ne'etzelu, creation manifested. Nivra'u, he says, ne'etzalu, nivra'u, notzru v'na'asu. Those are reference to the 4 worlds that we like to talk about, right? Atzilut, Bri'ah, here Yetzirah and Asiyah, right? Emanation, creation, fashioning, and the world of action. Kol chukei ha'anhaga shel etzem teva kol ha'olamot. All the various laws of reality that drive the nature of the worlds. However, regarding these 10 utterances of the 6 days of creation, you'll never see any sort of reference to sanctity or holiness. Right? The first time Kedusha appears is in a description of Shabbos. It's only with the appearance of Shabbos in the narrative that you find the first mention of sanctity and holiness. It's the inclusion of holiness over here. Its explanation is that even though, or rather until now, during the 6 days of creation, what was active, what was present, the body of the worlds, the being of the worlds in their form. Hine achshav, however, with the appearance of Shabbos, now, im hofato shel Shabbos, yatsa min hahelem el hagiloy, what emerged from a hidden state to a revealed state was hatachlit v'hamatara shel kiyum ha'olamot, the ultimate goal, the reason for that the worlds should exist in the first place. Okay, let's pause for a second.
Could you explain that? Because I've lost it.
Okay, so creation is made up of a week. The first 6 days, qualitatively, are different than the last day. During the first 6 days, it was the successive utterances of God that was forming the world and maintaining their existence. Right? However, you never see any reference to sanctity or holiness. Suddenly Shabbos appears, and we talk about Kedusha. He's saying, you know what that means? He's saying that there was something present in Sheshet Yemei Bereshit that was not seen, that was secretly the life of what you saw. And that was revealed on Shabbos. So if all of what you saw in creation was the coming into being of form, structure, worlds, Shabbos reveals what was the reason for that in the first place, which was what gave it life in the first place. Meaning everything gets its life from Shabbos, but Shabbos, that life isn't revealed till at the end. Sof ma'asav machshava tchila. So all we saw during Sheshet Yemei Bereshit was the utterances that formed reality. But really, what was driving that? The desire of God, which was Kedusha, which was holiness, which was sanctity, which was the life force of all the worlds. But that only emerges on Shabbos. Okay? So now,
It's like you see the body in the 6 days, and then only on Shabbat you see the soul.
right.
But the soul is the ikar. The soul is the
Right.
thing.
Why did God make the world? For Yom Shekulo Shabbos, right? Latid lavo, Yom Shekulo Shabbos. Im lo briti yom v'layla chukot shamayim v'aretz lo samti. If it wasn't for my covenant, right, to be maintained day and night, the laws of heaven and earth, I would have never affixed. Habrit, covenant, connection, right? Kedusha, meaning a connection with the divine, right? Hi hatachlit, that is the whole point. V'amatara, and the whole goal, shel chukot shamayim v'aretz, for the laws of heaven and earth to be. Chukot shamayim v'aretz, the laws of heaven and earth. Al yadam, through them, through shel asara mamar, through the utterances, the 10 utterances of God, shebehem nivra olam, that He created the world through. That's what is what we call the chukot shemayim v'aretz, the laws that made heaven and earth. And what gives that life? The brit. What's the brit? Al yadan shel aseret hadibrot shebehen nitna Torah. Right? We know that the 10 utterances of God, of Sheshit Yemei Bereshit, correspond to the 10 commandments, which we don't call the 10 commandments, the 10 statements. One is utterances, mamarot, and the other is dibrot. Right? One is on the level of Amira, which is soft, meaning it's a coming into being, it's an utterance that allows for existence. And the dibrot, a dibur, is when you say something with strength, meaning it becomes an imperative. Okay? So what we're saying is that verse that we just said, if it wasn't for maintaining the Brit, meaning learning Torah, heavens and earth, right, would not be nitkayem, because why did God create the world? In order to engage in Torah. That's the Brit over there. So what does that mean? That chukot shemayim va'aretz, you only saw, the first 6 days of creation, you only saw chukot shemayim va'aretz. But then on Shabbos, you saw what was revealed was what maintains them. And that's Brit, that's Kedusha, right? Aseret HaDibrot, the 10, the 10 statements. Hen pnimiutam, they are the inside essence. Shal aseret ha'mamarot, the neshama of the 10 utterances of creation.
Say that again.
Okay, the aseret hadibrot are the neshama of the 10 utterances of creation. Meaning, only what you see in Bereshit is the body, is those 10 statements of Torah being manifest in imperatives of existence.
And the 10 statements of Bereshit was whatever it says Hashem said.
Except for Bereshit, and according to one, Lo Tov. No, but that's also Vayomer, no? That's also Vayomer. Yeah, the only one that's not Vayomer is Bereshit, which is the first one. Okay, so there's a relationship between the Asara Mamarot and the Aseret HaDibrot. There's a relationship between Sheshet Yemei Bereshit and Shabbos. One is the body of the thing, and the other is the soul of the thing. And the way it works is you only first see something on one level, and it's only at the end is revealed that thing which gave it all meaning and purpose.
Right.
Okay, so
It's also the same with Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba.
that's Yom Shekulah Shabbos, exactly. That's right. That's history. History, time of the first week is history. V'zeu pirusho shel Vayikadesh, and that is the explanation in the verse when it says Vayikadesh, and he sanctified it. After it says Vayechulu, right? It says Vayechulu Hashemayim va'aretz v'chol tzavam, and the heavens themselves were completed, as if of themselves, as we learned, right? Vayechal Elokim, and then God stopped or abstained, right? Bayom Shvi, right, etc., etc., and then it says Vayikadesh also, and he sanctified it. Okay, so im siyum pe'ulatam shel aseret ha'ma'amarot, when it says Vayechulu, it means that those 10 utterances that made the world were completed. B'sheshet yemei bereshit, in the first week of creation. Hegia hasha'ah, now arrived the time, lahofa'ato shel or tachlit pe'ulazo, for the appearance of the light of the intention and the goal, that the original goal for all this, right? B'Shabbos Bereshis, on the first Shabbos of Bereshis, hivik oran shel aseret hadibrot, the light of the aseret hadibrot, of the 10 commandments, shone forth. Ad kedei kach, to the degree she'aseret ha'ma'amarot, that the 10 utterances of creation, na'asa lo lekli v'nartik, ended up becoming, in comparison, a vessel and an envelope, some sort of outer expression. Meaning it was revealed that this was even in a deeper, more pnimiut way, the chiyut of creation. V'zohi masha amarnu, and that's what we have said, ki inyan ikar v'tafel, the idea of an essential and a secondary, a relationship of a thing, a unified thing that is made up of the main thing, and just that which facilitates it, mehavehu et ha'mahalach ha'pnimi shel shvita Shabbos Bereshit. That understanding of that concept is the approach to understanding the essence of Shabbos, that when God rested on the Shabbos of Bereshis. Kilomar, that is to say, ein shvita zo, this resting does not, eino mechayevet et ha'eder pulatam shel aseret ha'ma'amarot. It's when we say that God did something, he had these 10 utterances and then he rested, it doesn't mean that there's a cessation now of the power of those ma'amarot that he put into place. Ella she'im hofat oran shel aseret hadibrot, that together with now a new appearance of the light of the Ten Commandments, מתגלה ממילא כי אין פעולת עשרת המאמרות רק בבחינת כלי למה שמתרומם עליה וגנוז בתוכה. It turns out that now with the new appearance of something which is of higher quality, it reveals that which that we were aware of before is only a tafel and a body and a facilitator to this appearance of the new light.
I see the connection between the 6 days of creation and Shabbat, the physical and then the spiritual root for the physical. But I can't see where he's bringing the 10 commandments, because I can see the 10 utterances for the creation, but why is he bringing the 10 commandments in afterwards?
Okay. What are the 10 commandments?
It's the Torah.
What is the Torah?
The Torah is the blueprint of the world.
Creation was meant to facilitate Torah.
Right.
Torah is that which God meant to share. Meaning that's the connection, right? So, meaning you thought until now God wanted to create something. But at the end of the process of creation, what's revealed now is why he wanted to do it. And that turns, right, in retrospect, that makes that awesome 10 utterances that you saw in action now revealed as just the outer expression to facilitate that which is emerging now. That's what he's saying, okay?
Okay.
And the reason why he specifically in the discussion through Tsfat Israel is because he made this link from a verse that put together Torah justifying the laws of Shemai V'Aretz. In Briti, right? In Lo Briti Yom V'Alayla Chukot Shemai V'Aretz Lo Samti. That's how we introduced. But really conceptually, it's the same thing. We always say, the Maharal, it's a big, the tens are very, very important.
Yeah.
Even the 10 makot are manifestations of the 10 utterances, meaning God is identifying himself as he who made the 10 utterances, which ultimately are only meaning every day, the form of the day is expressing another aspect of the Chachma of God. There's a piece of Torah that's giving life to Yom Rishon and Yom Sheni, whether you call it Chesed through Malchut, etc. So, but you don't see that till Shabbos emerges. Okay? So he's calling this the Torah of the Tafel and the Ikar, the relationship between the 6 days of the week, right? And Shabbos is to reveal how there's this thing in creation that which is awesome ultimately is revealed to be just the facilitator for the true purpose.
Right.
Okay. Umiata nidoneti pulat aseret ha'ma'amarot legabe or aseret ha'dibrot. And now we can contrast and understand, right? Now the work, the actions of the 10 utterances of creation, right? They can be understood in context or in light of the Or Aseret HaDibrot, of the light of the 10 commandments of the Torah. Kechli, as a vessel, legabe tochen, in regards to its content, uketafel, and as a secondary aspect, legabe ikar, in regards to an essential aspect. Umimela, and einanu tzrichim lehader pulatam shel aseret ha'ma'amarot b'chdei shetochal aleim Torah Shvita. You don't have to stop. There doesn't need to be a cessation of the aseret ha'ma'amarot in order for Shabbos to be considered rest. Meaning the fact that, the first question that you can ask me on the Gra is, right? The Torah says God did something 6 days and then he stopped. So the Gra is coming to tell me, you know what? That which he did on the 6 days, he's still doing. Wait a second, what do you mean he stopped? Right?
Right.
So we're saying the stopping on Shabbos is not the stopping of the 10 utterances. It's not like it was a one-time thing and then it stopped. Those 10 utterances are a constant thing that keep on, that are necessary for constant manifestation of creation. So however, what's the stopping? At the moment that it was revealed that they are only vessels, that's the stopping. What we're calling Shvisa means that the power that we related to them, the understanding that we had of them, shifted when something more essential came into being.
So the stopping is the stopping of the
relating directly through them, and now we're directly relating through the Pnimiut.
I see. So before we were relating through them because that's all we had.
Right.
And now on Shabbat we can now relate to its source.
During the week we only have the mechanics of existence to relate to. On Shabbos, you transcend the mechanics of existence and you directly relate to the purpose that necessitated those mechanics.
I see. So the stopping is the stopping of you relying on the mechanics.
Right, meaning
It's
it's
you're
qualitative
the one
connection.
stopping.
Well,
You're the one that's stopping.
You're no
not the
longer
actual.
the mediating barrier is no longer an issue. That's what stops. Meaning the need to relate through the mechanics stops, and now you have a direct connection. But those mechanics are still at play.
Yeah,
because
so
the second they would stop, the creation would stop.
That's right. So what I'm saying is that the essence of Shabbat is us. We are the essence of Shabbat because it's the perception that changes.
So what happens? You take a kli. The vessel is the shear of hotzah. But the second you put food into it, which is less than the amount, it makes that kli no longer exist.
Right.
So that's the shvita. The shvita of the kli was not because it disappeared. It's because now it became a tafel in terms of the order of creation. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, you're mevatel it as a thing. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll
keep in mind that the Torah was created before the world.
Yes, but the Aseret HaDibrot were not set yet. The Aseret HaDibrot is what turns that supernal blueprint to not just a blueprint, but something meant to be shared, a connection. That aspect of Torah, it's true. But meaning, it's exactly like you're saying, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila, meaning that which is revealed at the end, meaning that which appears at the end is only a revelation of that which was always there. Because it all has to start with that in order to get anywhere.
Yeah, but what Shlomo is saying is true because the Torah wasn't given until 2,500 years later. So what are you telling me? For those first 2,500 years, the revelation of the Torah being the essence isn't revealed. So
it's exactly like the first week.
Yes.
Meaning the 26 generations are the Yemei, the Aseret Hamamarot. And they only were sustained. Could only be there, right? Because God was trying to get to a point where he could reveal the Torah. Once the Torah is revealed, that explains why it was justified. And that makes those original generations almost meaningless now. I mean, it's the same exact phenomenon, the same exact element, formula, same pattern. Okay, so we're getting somewhere.
But the problem with all of this is that it's suggesting that the first Shabbat, the 10 Commandments, the Torah was revealed as the essence, and it wasn't because it wasn't given to another 2,500 years later. So how can you say to me the first Shabbat?
There's a huge difference between revealing the Torah and giving the Torah. Torah was totally manifest, but it was not granted in any way, and humanity was not ready to actually be given it over so that that they could sustain the world through it. But it was there. I mean, other Rishons saw it. Noach learned it. Meaning, what you're talking about. Meaning, it's not like God came to the world and said on Shabbos, "Anochi Hashem Elokecha," but the existence of that Torah now was revealed. I mean, it was all clear.
To whom?
If I show, humanity saw the Torah way before it was ever given to them.
Adam saw the Torah?
For sure. Noach lama Torah, Avram lama Torah. Chazal say, Torah existed. Torah was out there. The whole difference is Torah wasn't granted to us yet. That makes all the difference. It's the Torah being granted to us that is Machaya the universe when we sustain it. But Avram couldn't wait because he wanted to. But it doesn't mean it was the same thing. He wasn't being Mekayim the universe through his mitzvot.
If you take this philosophy to its end game, when Mashiach comes, all the generations up to Mashiach will become irrelevant.
Why?
Because the same principle. The purpose of the world was for the Mashiach. Once you get to the Mashiach, it's the Ikar.
What do you think Mashiach is?
What?
What do you think Mashiach is?
It's not now. It's yet. It
is the culmination and achievement of all those in history and all the generations that took the world in whatever way that we won't know, all the nameless faces of all our ancestors that in some way made this a world that Mashiach could happen. That's an achievement. If we had to plug it back into the Sheshet Yemei HaMaaseh, I wonder if it would be as follows. It says, Sheshes Yamim Ta'avod, V'asisa Kol Melachtecha, V'yom HaShvi Shabbos L'Hashem Elokecha, V'asasa Kol Melacha. You told me today that God didn't just tell Adam, don't eat. He said, eat. Mm-hmm. Why does the pasuk have to tell me by Shabbos, Sheshet Yamim Ta'avod? you should work for 6 days. Right? Why does it just say, however you spend, let's say you're retired, just make sure on Shabbos that you rest. But why does it have to say you got to work? And you better do all your work. Can you have a Shabbos if you don't work? Could you have a Shabbos without Sheshet Yemei Hamaisa? Isn't that what gets you to a Shabbos? What does that mean? You can't manifest Shabbos if you don't do the work. You have to go through a history, right? So maybe, meaning it's not that, the connection that will be afforded to humanity, what's available at the times of Mashiach, right, will show that the avodah that we did down here was not the thing. That was what enabled us to get there, to earn the right to actually live in the status that we're supposed to and totally be in bliss and relate to God on that higher level. So it doesn't negate, okay, I'll put it to you like this. It's a Mishnah that you say in the Haggadah. It says that you have to be, there's a machloket, right? It says, Amar Elazar ben Azariah, Hari ani keven shivim shana v'lo zachiti, right? That I should say Shema at night, Ad shedarsha ben Zoma, because it says, Kol yemei chayecha. You have to remember Yom Asher, right? The day that God took you out of Egypt, Kol yemei chayecha, all the days of your life. So Ben Zoma said, Yemei chayecha, the days of your life, meaning you have to be mazkir, you have to remember that God took you out of Egypt during the day. Kol, all, means nighttime. Okay? Come along the Chacham, and they say, we also have a drasha. Yemei chayecha, that means this part of history. Kol yemei chayecha, all the days, you know what Kol comes to teach me? Right? Including Yemot HaMashiach. What is that Mishnah talking about? And why is it in the Haggadah? It's telling you that you might think, what? And the Seder, you take the middle matzah and you cut it in half. And you put the big piece away. What are you doing there? The matzah is round. Right? You're saying, what goes around comes around. God started this process of Geula. He's going to take us out. And the bigger piece, that's the future one. That's the hidden one that we got to eat before Chatzot, right? That's the future Geula.
The Ikar one.
Yeah. So we're going to get to times of Mashiach, and you might think it'll totally negate and overshadow Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim will no longer be relevant. Right. And comes along Chazal and say no. That even in light of the ultimate Geula, which could have happened maybe on some sort of level even before Avram even needed his children to go down to Mitzrayim, that will never, it will never negate Mitzrayim because that was the beginning of a process. It's two halves of a whole. You can't separate, right? So I'm just making a case for arguing against the fact that the appearance of Mashiach will negate all the work that we did to get there. And I don't really think that that's the relationship that we're talking about here. We have a few more lines, and then we can...
We've got a few more minutes.
Okay, so hopefully 1.5 will be enough. Okay. So you don't need the cessation of the mechanics of Sheshet Yemei Bereshis in order to qualify Shabbos as rest. It could still be active. That's not the rest. The rest is the change in reality from perception when it is revealed that those mechanics are now only secondary to something much greater. Okay? So Shaharei Zohi Sheshanino, this is what we learned. Kiko Peula, Shatar Tafel Alel, any act that has that applies to the Torah of secondary and essential, Ein Hi Soter Klal Mahut HaShvita, it doesn't contradict at all the idea of resting. What does that mean? Adarabah, just the opposite. Zohi atzmiut mitziota shel shvis Shabbos Bereshis. The essence of what's considered rest regarding the first Shabbos of Bereshis is not that something stopped, but that there was a shift in importance with the appearance of something far more essential. Shemitzad hufat ora shel kedushat Shabbos, with the appearance now of the sanctity of Shabbos. Yarda bechinat hateva, the aspect of created nature was lowered, shel ha'olamat, of the worlds, v'gufam, and their bodies, meaning their form, the madregat kli v'tefa, meaning they fell to in importance, or it was revealed, then they became something on the level of a vessel and of only secondary importance. Okay, the hanamachat erko, the lowering of its worth, shel olam hateva, of the world of the natural world, mimadregas tochen, from the level of content or what's important, the ikar and essential, the madrega kli v'tafel, when it became demoted now to a level of vessel and secondary importance, that in itself is the Shvitata Shel Shabbos Bereshis. That's what we're referring to in regards to the rest of the Shabbos of Bereshis. Umikan, and from here, She'ein Chidush Ma'aseh Bereshit B'chol Rega V'Rega Soter Klal L'Shvitat Shabbos. And in the words of the Gra, then, you can't ask, according on the words of the Gra, that the fact that God constantly repeats that in continued existence, those 10 utterances of creation, right? It's not a contradiction with saying that God rested on Shabbos, because the rest over here, we're not saying that he ever stopped those. We're just saying that they shifted in importance in reality. Umikan, and from here, she'ein chidush ma'aseh bereshit, the renewal of the workings of creation, b'chol rega v'rega, within every instance, soter klal l'shvitat Shabbos, it does not at all contradict the resting of Shabbos, kishvisa Shabbos, because the resting of Shabbos, einena ella, it is only a shinoi arachin, a change in value, v'lo ha'eder ha'pu'ula, and not the cessation of action. We will stop here.
Beautiful.